say later. How are you doing?
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you here today to the hills and vineyards of Sonoma, California, as we're preparing to get underway for our first race in the preseason, one of two preseason races for IESC, as IESC has returned for another season of multi-car, multi-class championships. I'm joined by Dangerous Incorporated, also known as DIG Drigmora. Drigmora, you've already been broadcasting for a little bit before I started up, and to answer your question, I've had better, I've had worse. I'm hoping that this race makes it full-on better, because this could be a very interesting race we're looking at here today. Sonoma, California has been a staple of the NASCAR schedule for decades upon decades, where most of the people with a NASCAR background are familiar here. But something that a lot of people forget is that this track started out as a IMSA sports car and prototype racing circuit in the mid-80s. It replaced Riverside in about 1987 and was right away a very, very interesting staple on the classic IMSA calendar for that mine. Now, it doesn't get to see a whole lot of action. It's not NASCAR nowadays, but it's still very, very interesting, very, very important to watch here, because today people are going to go ahead, get a little bit of shaking down out in the cars, and more importantly than anything else, you're really going to get an idea as to how these drivers can properly manage traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it was a NASCAR car track. Obviously, they still race at this track to this day. Even in this configuration nowadays. Look at how recently they started to race incorporation. So some of the manufacturers in here know what this track is about. You see there's some Chevys in here, so they know what it means to race at this track. Dodge even has raced at this track recently, although the last time they raced here in NASCAR was around 2012.
Yep.
You get Ford is in here. There's no Toyota, but you can clearly see majority of, with the exception of maybe two cars, are all American cars. That have raced at this track. It's just that they're not the same make as NASCAR, pretty much. So I'm not surprised to see that it's an American dominance here, and probably I wouldn't be surprised if an American make ends up winning these classes in this race, pretty much.
All right, well, this is one thing I do want to go ahead and point out right away. So, from the information that I've gleaned thus far today, we could be looking at an event where the DPi class is not going to win. That's the number one thing we have to consider. This is a three-tier series. You have the DPis, you have the LMP2s, you have the GTs. Everyone knows what GTs are. You have a whole lot of different manufacturers that show up with racing versions of their street cars, or in the case of Ford, the race car came first and the street car came later. But those cars show up onto the circuit, and then they're all homologated kind of down to match off of each other. A bunch of different cars, a bunch of different manufacturers, all of them having different pros and cons. That's kind of the heart of IESC, is GT racing. But they are the slowest. They have a lot more weight than everything else. They have some good bloody racing, but they're a lot slower compared to the LMP2s and the DPIs. The LMP2s have power levels lowest of everyone here, and in this series, LMP2 is a single make. That is the Chevy FML 09. You can tell that they are the LMP2s because they're going to be a little bit faster through the corners, and there is no covering for the driver's head. Driver's head is completely exposed to the wind. It causes a little bit of extra drag on the car, but not so much that becomes a problem. LMP2s also with a lot less horsepower, but a lot more downforce. They also have a lot less weight. So with that in mind, they will have to make the fewest number of stops a day, and there's an honest possibility that the LMP2 class could take overall victory today simply because of the nature of the circuit. Then you have the DPi class. In the DPi class, you have two competitors. You have the Chevy DPi, and then you have the Ford DPi. Now today we only have one of each, one Ford, one Chevy DPi, so it's going to be a simple two-car fight when it comes to the top class today. But they're going to be racing against the LMP2s. LMP2s don't have to make as many stops today, so it could be very interesting. The DPIs, much, much heavier. Their weight is honestly more comparable with the GT categories. However, with that in mind, they're running the most power of everyone else. We're talking levels in the 700, 800, 900 horsepower range. They're running downforce that's comparable to the LMP2 class. They've kind of got the best of all worlds with the exception of weight. Thing is, though, here around Sonoma, weight ends up being a really, really big factor going forward here.
Yeah, pretty much. And we got in my chat, Dan, EMS, or RBS Dan, it says, is it me or the IO coming in and out really rapid? Let me see if I can change all that real quick. I don't know if, you can hear real well, Dan, so...
I sadly don't have much ability to adjust the audio on my end. I will have to just look back afterwards at the broadcast and see if there's anything I can or can't fix. So real quickly, as we go ahead and look through the order, at the top, the fastest two drivers, RZM, Arsenal, and Dino Prime, and one of them is in the Ford DPI, one of them is in the Chevy DPI. Chevy DPI is a little bit more robust from side to side. Ford is a little bit taller top to bottom. Then you have two LMP2 runners. You have Mr. Sunshine. He is going to be starting ahead of Larry B, the G. Those two running almost the exact same paint scheme today as they are teammates. Difference, Mr. Sunshine has a black air scoop at the very top of the car, while Larry B is yellow. Then you have in the GT category, RZM Bet in the Chevy, Scorch Buffalo in the BMW, Prius Killer in the Dodge, U5 in the Chevy, Ludicrous Speed in the Ford, Shredder in the BMW, and Matter in the other Dodge.
Yeah. And that puts a smile to my face seeing that Brett's on the pole for this, as obviously, at least, well, he was an OEC kind of a driver of mine for DIR. So, unless, well, obviously, we have essentially kind of a teammate. And he does have a teammate today, U5.
So it's going to be a 45-minute race, so the lap counter is not what matters, and I have on my phone a 45-minute clock that I will start the moment the leader crosses the line. After those 45 minutes are over, the leader of every single class will run to the end of that lap, and that's it. Everyone will pull over to the side, and their positions will be accounted for at that point. Alright. Again, the number one thing I'm going to be focusing on is Mr. Sunshine and Larry B, the G, in the LMP2 category. They are anticipated to make fewer pit stops in today's race. We could potentially see them overtake and win overall today. If so, that would be very interesting. It's not something that I would anticipate seeing again, though, later on in the season, where we'll actually see more of a decisive difference between them. But the shortness of the length of this race will factor into that. But anyways, our leading categories are coming around the final turn, and when we see the leader hit the start-finish line, we will go ahead and activate this 45-minute clock to begin this race. Alright, and we are underway. 45 minutes here at Sonoma. Right off the bat, RZM Arsenal is going to scoot ahead of Dino Prime. Dino does close in a bit in the breaking of two. Arsenal really wide, but the top four got away well. Ludicrous speed, using the advantage of the extra downforce that that Ford GT has to go around the outside of Scorn Buffalo. Buffalo now has the inside in the downhill carousel section. He'll use the power of that BMW to try and pull ahead of the Ford GT. The Ford GT is still side by side as we ride on board with U5 AVMP looking as they go neck and neck into this braking zone. The Ford GT a little bit lower to the ground, a little bit more downforce, will cross the front of Scorn Buffalo. Scorn Buffalo, though, comes out of there with a lot more power and will place his BMW back in front of the Ford GT as they're running downhill through the S's now. Looks like Buffalo has that, and that's going to let Ludicrous go to the outside, and they're going to be side by side in the following corner. U5 wants to try and get by. He sees a moon. Ludicrous goes wide. He goes into the dirt, and he's going to now fall behind his side by side between BMW and Chevy as they go into the hairpin corner, and we have BMW side by side as Shredder throws his big boy and made up the inside, turns it to the outside as they go into the last corner, and U5 has made up the position. He is now 5th overall. Third in his category, 7th, I should say, 7th overall, but he is 3rd in his category. Yeah. And in that 5th place position, RZM Brett, he is running solidly in that Chevrolet machine. Chevy, it's been back and forth on how the Chevys have been properly balanced because they don't really have any one factor that they're very strong at. They're just kind of a jack of all trades, master of none car. It makes it very, very hard to balance them in comparison with everything else. Either the Chevy ends up being underpowered in some critical way, or, and I've seen other leagues try and do this, they try to balance everything off of the Chevy, but that just means that the Chevy ends up being the best car overall. So I would not be surprised if we see a little bit of controversy going forward if Brett just ends up walking this race. Right now, though, Prius Killer, who is 2nd in the GT category, is not letting that yellow car go away. Prius is in one of the Dodge Vipers, and he's, holding up pretty strong, especially considering that Sonoma is not a track that favors the strengths of that Dodge, which is straight line speed.
Yeah, seeing Brett pulling away kind of reminds me of the old days of when he was so dang dominant in a P1 class in another league, OEC. So this literally brings a smile to my face right now.
So U5 and Scorched Buffalo are still fighting it out for 3rd in their class right now. U5 seems to be having a little bit of issue sending that Chevrolet into the corners the way he wants, while Scorched Buffalo is struggling a little bit more with the weight of that BMW. I've gotten a chance to drive that BMW in heavy racing conditions before. It's one of the few GT cars I do like, but man, it is very, very heavy and it causes a lot of issues. He's dealing with all that weight. Ludicrous Speed is making a move on SRD Shredder farther back. Again, we have power in the BMW versus nimble, not really speed, but just the nimble acceleration through the corners in that Ford GT. Right now, it seems like power is a little bit more important than aerodynamics, though, because in every single battle I'm seeing right now, the BMW is holding up against its competitors that are supposed to be a little bit more nimble.
Yes, and it's like you said, usually Sport is in another BMW, but it is a little bit different BMW than the one we were used to, because the other BMW, I think it was a little bit slimmer, and he'd go really fast. So I know how good he can do. This is quite shocking to not, well, I'm still seeing him at the front, but he's still not, like, top 3. This is completely shocking to me. And Score's gonna go on the inside. Will power move, he sends it there on the second to last corner, and he somehow gets 3rd.
Alright, so meanwhile, at the front of the field, RZM Arsenal is opening up a gap on his only rival on track right now, Dino Prime 77, and a gap of about 1 second a lap. So we're on our 4th racing lap, and the gap is about 4.5 seconds right now. So he has cleared his rival, Dino, right now. DPis are anticipated to make 2 pit stops today, so Dino's going to have to hope they can get him back. Now, this is the interesting thing. I'm watching this fight for second right now, because it shouldn't be a fight, but again, this track suits the LMP2 strengths very well. Mr. Sunshine is still in the tire tracks of Dino. Dino is stretching out on the LMP2 car, using the power to his advantage in the straights. But like I said, that LMP2 is not letting the DPis get away, and those Daytona prototypes, if they have to make more pit stops, Mr. Sunshine will be in a great position to easily overtake Dino and might have the ability to fight for the overall race win. Then, here's the other thing, Larry B. the G in 4th in the LMP2 class, he is not that far off of Mr. Sunshine's machine right now. He's only a few seconds off. If something goes wrong with Mr. Sunshine, that could end up being very interesting. But once again, in the GT category, it's been all RZM Brett. He is opening the gap a little bit now between himself and Prius Killer. I have to think that he's probably just trying to manage the gap between the Chevy and the Dodge. Scoring Buffalo is 3rd in the GT category right now, as he has finally gotten by U5's Chevrolet. Then you have Ludicrous Speed. He is back there trying to close in, but he is fighting more to keep Shredder behind him in that position rather than he can really move that forward up in the order right now. So in the GT category, the most cars and right now the most active racing action. Long term though, keep an eye on the fight for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th overall.
Yes, definitely. Keep an eye on this battle. I think Sunshine is kind of closing in on Dino here a little bit. Yeah, right now.
Again, Mr. Sunshine, he knows that there is an off chance that he could get the overall race win today, something that he's not likely to factor into for the rest of the season, simply because of the power deficit between DPIs and LMP2s. So he is stalking Dino.
A little bit different. This is probably the one shot that too far and has that are like
So
might be the one and only chance for getting overall win.
So in the P2's somewhat favor, there is another track like this on the circuit, and that will be Laguna Seca and the points-paying races. The difference, though, is that this track is very flowly. You spend a lot of time kind of like running through long, sweeping corners. That's perfect for the LMP2. Laguna Seca is very similar to the circuit in every way, except for the way the corners are mapped out. Almost all the corners at Laguna Seca are tighter than 90 degrees. That kind of acceleration out of the corner is going to favor the DPIs. Now, the LMP2s will still have an advantage. It's a short, nimble circuit. They'll still be strong, but they're not going to be quite as strong as like what we're seeing right now. Ooh, both Dino Prime and Mr. Sunshine missed the ideal racing line going into the hairpin, and then Larry B. the G behind had a good entry, but put the power down too early and ended up having a really shoddy exit. Scored Buffalo has also gotten by Prius Killer for 2nd in the GT category, so now we're going to see a BMW try to pass another Chevy. We've seen that BMW of Buffalo go ahead and get by one of the other Chevrolet GTs earlier in U5. Now he's going to try and get our current race leader in the GT category.
These two know each other all too well. They race each other in OEC in the past. The last time Rev was racing, he got the victory and the won. So I'm hoping he gets another victory here today, knowing him and Stone know each other so damn well. It's gonna be interesting if Brett can hold on.
Alright, so this is now where it's going to start getting really interesting, though. RZM Arsenal, your current overall leader, has now begun catching traffic. Matter has been the slowest overall. He's just kind of been about 2nd off pace of the rest of the GT category. And we will see that DPI nimble, not really nimble, but just accelerate the Viper out of a corner and just having more downforce that lets him get by. But already, Arsenal seems to be struggling a bit. I'm seeing he's dropping that Ford into the grass in a lot of places you don't really want to. So I do have to think that he may have that car set up really, really on edge. Traffic could be an issue for him. And for Dino Prime, who is almost 11 seconds out of the lead right now, he really needs Arsenal to start having some major issues trying to get through the GT category traffic.
Right on board, Brett, he is making
Prius Kill is actually closing back in on Buffalo for that second spot again, but second spot in the GT category keeps fighting like this, well, they're not going to get anywhere. RZM Arsenal, easy dive bomb on Shredder going into the hairpin, but he spits the rear of that car out trying to put the power down. He's really anxious now. He's held up behind the 4GT of Ludicrous Speed. He'll out-drag him on the start-finish straight, so that's another slower class car that he'll get by without too much issue. But again, every time he puts the power down, I see the rear end of that Ford DPi stepping out a bit. He is most definitely struggling here. The thing is, though, I don't think he's struggling so much that's really going to harm him going forward. This is going to be where it gets really interesting, though, because as we go ahead and ride on the roof of this machine, you can see that U5 is coming up next. He'll easily overtake him. Prius Killer has great power in that Dodge. If he can put the power down well, coming on the straight, he'll give him problems coming into the braking zone. And no, the GT actually ends up letting off and lets the DPi go through first. This is where things get interesting for Brett and Buffalo, though, because you have faster traffic trying to make way. He could very easily end up impacting this fight in the GT category. He's going to try and go to the outside of the GT BMW downhill. Can't do it. Buffalo twitches in front of the DPi, and now that Buffalo ends up going wide. Now the DPi's got some clean racetrack ahead of him for just a bit, but Buffalo with a huge mistake, and that's not going to work well. Here comes the DPi. He makes a dive bomb on Brett going into the hairpin corner and should easily complete that overtake. No, Brett comes back, actually. Brett had a much better run.
Yeah, that kind of made it hurt. Scored a little bit. But will it hurt? Brett.
Well, here's the real thing to watch. Fight for second. Mr. Sunshine has caught Dino Prime, and for a briefest of moments, that LMP2 was ahead of the DPi. This is a rare fight, folks, one that we're probably not going to see again in this series, as a DPi is trying desperately to hold off a slower class car behind him, and now lap traffic is in play. GT of Ludicrous Speed. Oh, and you can see the acceleration of that Chevrolet up through the drag strip, but then the moment you get under braking, you can see Sunshine just peels right up behind him. He's already looking to the inside in that uphill hairpin at the end of the drag straight. Again, Dino starts accelerating away, but the moment it starts getting through downhill sections, that P2 sucks right up behind him. Oh, he's got to run, and that DPi is caught behind. Ooh, look at that move, and the DPi goes into the side, and Sunshine hits the back of the Dodge, and that's going to compromise his run. What about fourth place? Here comes fourth place now. Larry B, the G, sees Mr. Sunshine coming. He wants to make a move on him now.
As well, but
so the LMP2 struggling a lot more with navigating lap traffic, and that's kind of the counterpoint to this. Yes, this track specializes and works the best for you whenever you have a lot of downforce on your car and you're not weighing that much. But when it comes to overtaking here, power is key because you want to have good power exiting the corners. The DPIs have an advantage over the LMP2s of navigating the slower GT traffic. Oh, and Sunshine's off! He's deep off the circuit! He went way off the circuit in the downhill carousel, and Larry B, the G's gonna get by him! Larry is still stuck in traffic. He's stuck behind Prius Killer right now, as he now going to try and get around the Dodge that compromised his teammate slash rival in the same category. He's going to try and go around the outside. Prius tries to give him racing room, and yes, Larry gets by the Dodge, but yeah, you can really see how much more the LMP2 struggle because they are down on power compared to the drivers in the in the GT category.
yeah, you can clearly tell that with all the pros are usually always faster.
Yeah. Well, Larry seems to have figured a little bit of something out right now with that car. Ooh, as he gets really sideways, putting the power down on the curbs out of 3. But Larry seems to understand that if he can just exit a corner and be on the outside or the inside, even if it's a bad lane into a quarter, and he can just kind of stay roughly in the drag race to the corner. He can just be barely alongside them, but the sheer lack of weight in that car and the better aerodynamics should allow him to sail around the cars even on a worse line. That's what he seems to be trying to do right now. The problem is it's really hard to do it in some of the corners. Look at that, coming out of the downhill carousel, Larry B the G had the inside line. Typically you want to be running the more outside line to extend the straightaway, but Larry had the inside line, the aerodynamics and the lighter weight of the car worked in his favor. He's now by. That is the key thing that has put Larry over Sunshine right now in the LMP2 category, because Sunshine just hasn't seemed to quite figure it out yet how to get by the GT traffic. Now we see Larry B go ahead and overtake Brett, who is your leader in the GT category.
That's almost everybody except for Mr. Sunshine has come in or has gotten all the GT cars.
Yeah.
The only one left that has not left him is Mr. Sunshine.
Right now, Mr. Sunshine is running behind Scored Buffalo and behind RZ and Brett and has not yet been able to figure out a way by him. Now he gets by coming out of 3. Now Buffalo has the power, but again, coming out, this is all these uphill corners, turns 1 through 5. It works strongest in the LMP2's favor. He's right behind the Chevy of Brett there. Brett's going to take a little bit of a wider line. That's the ideal line. Sunshine takes a tighter line, and there he is. He's finally by the GT category, but Sunshine went from fighting for what could have ended up being overall race win. Now he is 4th and well out of spot for just category win right now.
Pretty much. He could get overall 2nd, but I think with the mistakes he has made in this, trying to get around these GT cars, it might have lost him severely in this race.
So here's another thing to consider. Right now, the fastest car on track, without doubt, is RZM Arsenal. Dino Prime, though, in his Chevrolet, has a car that's trimmed out more for straight line speed. He has the top speed right now of 171 miles an hour. With that in mind, if traffic continues to be a factor as this goes on, yes, 18 seconds behind is Dino, but all it takes is for Arsenal to have one hiccup. Dino's car is better set up to navigate lap traffic. Dino could come back into play in it as long as that gap stays less than 30 seconds and Arsenal is at risk of having an incident. Now, once that gap is more than 30 seconds, though, I think the category win for DPI goes firmly into Arsenal's favor.
Yes.
So meanwhile, in the GT category, Scored Buffalo is keeping pace with your current GT leader, RZ and Brett. The two of them have kind of broken away from U5 a little bit, and then Prius Killer has fallen back to 4th overall in the GT category. Lucas is 5th in the GT category, Shredder is 6th in the GT category, Matter is 7th in the GT category. Again, this is a preseason race, no points are awarded for today's race, so there are a lot of drivers here who said, hey look, I have other commitments, I'd rather participate in those other commitments, they're not going to be running. In the actual racing series itself, we should be expecting car counts closer to about 14 to 16, maybe another one in DPI, another one in LMP2, and another 1 or 2 in the GT category going forward. So right now we're looking at kind of a much shorter race than normal, and we're also looking at much shorter, not shorter, but much smaller field overall.
Yeah, pretty much. But this is, even then, this is almost OEC in and of itself.
Ooh! And Brett goes off into the dirt, and that's letting Scored Buffalo come in now.
Brett is going to put off.
Just a bit over 25 minutes left in this race at the moment as we are watching them go uphill through 1 through 5. The fight for the GT leading spot is on now. Brett has dominated pretty much from the start, but Buffalo has overcome a poor qualifying run, and he is storming up through the field right now. You can see Brett having a little bit of trouble trying to make the rear of that Chevrolet follow the nose of the car going into the corners. Buffalo does not seem to be struggling the same way with that. He's just struggling with the weight of that BMW M8 machine.
Yes, that might be, it might hinder Ford a little bit, because, like I said, smaller
Yeah, he's normally... Yeah. But BMW is BMW, and one thing that BMW prides itself in is the even weight distribution front to back. And if Scored Buffalo is familiar with running smaller, lighter BMWs, he can still take a lot of the lessons from that and apply it to here, because this car is very close to that 50-50 weight balance that BMW prides itself on, whether it's their road cars or the race cars. And I think that's one of the things that has Lane Buffalo overcome the weaknesses of that machine to challenge for a lead so much. Again, Brett dumps a tire into the grass. Buffalo goes around the outside. He sends it in hard under braking, locks up both of their brakes, bright up light orange in the hairpin. Brett still holds the position, but Buffalo is not letting him go yet. Well, sadly for you, we are not in the same booth right now, so if you have a heart attack, I can't do anything to save you. Yeah, I'm watching right now, and without a doubt, Brett has the better car, I believe, but Buffalo is extracting more performance out of that machine. As I'm watching him take the corners, Brett is struggling significantly, keeping the rear of that car happy going through these corners, while we are watching this BMW. No problems. He's maximizing every single corner, and Arsenal has come into the pits to make his first stop of the day. That will let Dino inherit the race lead for the moment. But again, we are anticipating 2 pit stops in the DPI category today. Only 1 for the LMP2s, so that fight is not done yet. Larry B. the G has just gotten overtaken by Mr. Sunshine, though, on track. So I missed that happening, sadly, as we are focusing on the GT fight. Oh, and the BMW misses the braking zone, the hairpin once more, and Brett opens up the gap just by the smallest of amounts over Buffalo. Now we're seeing a lot of the GT drivers going ahead and making their pit stops. Brett still holds his position over Scored Buffalo, but Buffalo closing in through the corners right now. One good thing for Dino is that he's starting to catch traffic again, and this is where that car of his works a little bit stronger than his main rival on the circuit, Arsenal. Now, Arsenal still has clean track ahead right now, though Dino does not. But we are anticipating that Dino will be making a stop sooner rather than later. As I look at the telemetry, 15% fuel wear, 61% wear on the front tires. Dino, at this rate, he's going to probably have to come in the next 3 laps. Again, this GT fight, though, will not let up at all. RZ and Brett continues to just barely hold over that BMW. Again, the BMW has a huge run coming down to the corner. And again, Brett just holds the line, actually intentionally misses the braking zone, so that way Buffalo can't take the wider line to preserve his momentum. But the thing is that BMW only seems to be able to build up enough speed to really make a move going into that hairpin. And right now, Brett has the advantage because it's very easy to defend the move in that hairpin. If you want to keep them from having your inside, just take a tighter line. If you want to keep them from running the outside, just intentionally miss the braking zone a little bit. Brett holds all the cars. Buffalo has the better car, the better driver car combo right now, but Brett holds the cards when it comes to the actual fight. Sonoma, very defensive circuit at the moment.
Yes. There's only maybe a few passing opportunities. This is one of those that Buffalo puts it in. But yeah, like I said, there's only maybe a handful of areas these cars can potentially pass, you know. Brett is
Yeah, Brett is absolutely pounding that car out going downhill to try and open the gap between himself and Buffalo when they get into the corner. So in the braking zone, again, Buffalo wants to take a wider entry. Buffalo's almost squaring off the corner. He's entering a little bit wider. He's right on the apex in the center of the hairpin, then wider exit. Brett's doing more of a diamonding, though. Brett is taking a little bit tighter entry, wider mid, tighter exit. So we're seeing two different kinds of racing lines right now. For Brett, I think he's just doing that because he's struggling with the rear of that Chevrolet by the looks of it. Buffalo is not. So Buffalo is taking... Wow, look at that dive! Buffalo tried to send a dive on the inside of Brett going in at 4 there. And Dino, your current leader in the DPI category, is pitted. That will give the lead back over to RZM Arsenal. But again, Arsenal is dealing with lap traffic, dealing with some lap traffic at least, and that's not going to help him going forward because he's coming up on 3 GT cars, and then right afterwards he's going to come up on this fight as well. And that's one other thing to consider. It's a little bit more of a long-term issue, but here we go. The BMW around the outside. He's going to get him around the outside potentially. And he does! He gets him on the outside! He just carries more momentum on the outside of the car, and that's how you know that Buffalo is happier with that machine, because he just put the power down and ran the car on the outside, and he's by Brett. So our first lead change in the GT category comes. Oh, and Brett in the aero wake runs off into the dirt as well, and Brett says, I'm not dealing with this. He wants to pit now. GTs are anticipated to only pit once today, so Brett's tires are going to be a little bit rough near the end of this race because he's short pitting potentially. As real quickly, I look at the time right now. Well, here's the other thing. On the clock right now, we have 17 minutes and 41 seconds left. So at this rate, we could be very easily looking at a scenario where Brett ends up coming back because Brett may have better use on fresher rubber, and he might be able to use that to fight back for the lead overall. Now, here's the other thing, though. In the DPI category, yes, RZM Arsenal is leading, but Mr. Sunshine is second at the moment, and he is trying to close in on your current overall leader. Sunshine, has he made his pit stop yet? If the answer is no, then there is a very high likelihood that he's going to walk out here with this win. The answer, no, Sunshine has not made his stop yet. And again, we're anticipating the DPIs to make another pit. Sunshine still has to make a pit, and he's only 8 seconds out from your DPI leader. I think there's honestly a chance that Sunshine could still walk out here with this race win. Well, anyways, RZM Arsenal is making his way through the lap traffic right now relatively well. He's through almost everyone except for your GT category leaders at the moment. He can see them a little bit farther up the road. Well, it's just the one, scored Buffalo. The fact that Buffalo is not fighting with Brett right now works very well in Arsenal's favor, because Arsenal only has to worry about overtaking one of them and not both. And for your current leader, Buffalo's like, look, I'll just go ahead, let him go when it's practical, because he doesn't want to lose too much time trying to deal with that faster DPI gain around him. Larry B. the G pitting out of the 3rd position now. Lock up from Arsenal. He's right there behind Buffalo, trying to figure out a way by. And he'll power by there right before they get into the carousel. And he's through. So yeah, fight for 3rd at the moment. Dino Prime trying to outpace. Ooh, and Brett goes off into the dirt, so Dino gets by Brett without issue, but Brett is compromised a bit by the faster car. But again, right now, Dino's focus is that he needs to try and stay ahead of Larry B. the G, and he needs to hope and pray that something goes wrong with Sunshine, because Sunshine has to pit again, Dino has to pit again, so right now, those two are even, and Dino, who's supposed to be in the faster car, and there we are, our race leader coming in the GT category coming in. So the question is going to be, where's the rest of the field going to come out in the GT category in relation to him? U5 is pitting. Prius Killer is pitting. Ludicrous Speed, though, is going to stay out, though. So we might see Ludicrous Speed potentially lead this lap in the GT category. Yep, there he goes. So Ludicrous Speed will lead a lap in the GT division. Where is Brett going to come out in relation to scores?
Might be able to.
I don't know. He ran off and lost a bunch of time after the DPI Chevy of Dynamite passed him, but this is a long pit lane, one of the longest in the game. Scored Buffalo, finally starting to accelerate out of the pits. He's onto the track, and right now, Scored Buffalo is still 6th, and he will inherit 5th from Ludicrous Speed when Ludicrous inevitably pits. Brett is behind, though. Brett is coming. Buffalo needs to get heat into those tires fast because Brett is on a charge and mounting a charge right now. Uphill, and now they send it down to the carousel. It does look like at the moment, and now we are Sunshine pitting out of 2nd position. So Sunshine versus Larry B. the G. Larry has not yet made a stop, I believe. Or maybe he has made, no, Larry has made his stop actually. Larry made his stop a lot earlier, so he's going to try and hope that he can close in on Mr. Sunshine while Sunshine is in the pits. And you can see Larry closing in on RZ and Brett, so he's about to have a small impact on this fight for the GT category lead right now. Again, Sunshine's still in the pit lane at the moment. Larry trying to make something happen with Brett. Side by side going into the corner. And there we are. Larry just barely ahead of Brett, so he will take that. But Sunshine's already out of the pits, and Larry hasn't even gotten to the line yet. So Larry has not closed enough on his rival in his LMP2 category. Larry now closing up on the BMW of Buffalo. And Brett's really still seems to be struggling in turns 1 through 5 right now. Alright, and B goes to the inside, and Larry will make an easy-ish overtake on Buffalo. So he's by him again. But again, right now, overall race leader in the DPI category, RZM Arsenal has had absolutely no one fighting with him as he just kind of sails out. He's saying the fastest laps of the day today, 119.6. He is 35 seconds away from Dino Prime right now. Frankly, Arsenal can go ahead, make his final stop anytime he wants, and he will be good to the end of this race. When it comes to the LMP2 category, it is Mr. Sunshine who is in 3rd, but he might walk out of here with 2nd overall after Dino Prime makes his final stop of the day. Will be very close there. Then in the GT category, Scored Buffalo has the lead. It's not quite over yet, but it does look like he is in the dominant position right now because at the moment he is maintaining the gap perfectly between himself and 2nd place RZM Brett in the GT category. A little bit farther down, 3rd, U5 is pretty much locked up 3rd all by himself in the GT category. Ludicrous Speed has rebounded to 4th in the GT category right now, but he is dealing with the Viper of Prius Killer. Ludicrous ahead, a lot less power in that 4GT, a lot more downforce and handling. Prius Killer has a lot more power, a lot less handling, a lot less downforce, and being caught behind someone else is going to make it a lot harder for Prius Killer to overtake. The good news is that Viper is the perfect kind of car to be making and challenging for overtakes in. The bad news though, this is one of the worst kind of tracks for that machine. And then,
yes, and as where I'm seeing Brett is slowly catching Scored. Scored might be making a few mistakes maybe.
Scored, we also might just be seeing a scenario where Brett is happier on the fresher rubber compared to that leading BMW. That BMW, again, kind of closed in and took the lead late in the stint. So Buffalo may just have a scenario where that car handles better as the tires wear off in comparison to the other cars in his class. So right now, Brett's probably using everything up that he can to try and close in on your GT category leader. Meanwhile, RZM Arsenal has now made it by Prius Killer, and by doing so, he's actually going to knock Prius Killer off the back of Ludicrous Speed for a bit. He's going to easily power by around the 4GT of Ludicrous Speed, as again, we're seeing the GT category cars go another lap down. Now Arsenal begins setting his focus on U5. So right now, I do think that Dino still is better through traffic, but there's just not been enough traffic for it to really be a factor that works in his favor. Arsenal being nearly a second a lap, actually over a second a lap faster than Dyno Prime throughout most of this race today has basically meant that it's been a walk-off for Arsenal. He just needs to not make mistakes, and he's made small mistakes, but nothing that really has built up into anything problematic.
Yes.
Again, in the LMP2 category, Mr. Sunshine holds third. Oh, and he's had an accident going down the main straightaway, dipped the tire into the outside grass, and that spun him into the inside wall. Now, I kept the car straight, didn't lose too much time, but if he keeps making mistakes like that, that will put Larry B. the G potentially back into contention. Larry is right now just a bit more than 6 seconds out of our LMP2 category leader.
Yes. Yes, it means about, in terms of speed and that, that's about like an 8.9 gap between him and Mr. Sunshine.
Also, Sunshine's about to start dealing with lap traffic again shortly. We have 8 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. So we are in what's going to be about the last 10 laps of this race. Again, when the clock is up and time is up, everyone will finish the lap they are on, and then the results will be tallied after that. So we're not racing that 50-lap counter up there on the board. We are racing to a clock. Sunshine, easy overtake on Matter. So no issue with the lap traffic there. Arsenal has gotten by, scored Buffalo now. So Arsenal is clean track ahead for him once more. But again, we are anticipating the DPIs will need to take a second pit stop.
Maybe just one.
Well, I'm saying two because what I heard is that DPI category is mandated to take 2 stops in this race. Arsenal, I've only seen him make 1 stop. So he's I'm going to guess he's waiting very late in the event. We'll probably try and make his pit stop as late as humanly possible. But he's not done it yet, though. Wow, really sent it into the hairpin. Just kind of chucking the car in there and just letting driver ability kind of save it as he pulls it out. Again, right now, Arsenal, fastest man on the track. He has been setting lap times consistently in the high 119s or low 120s. No one else has even gotten close to the 120s thus far today, not in the LMP2 or the rivaling DPI category at the moment. And again, we turn our focus to the fight for the lead in the GT category, and really it's not even a fight. The gap between Buffalo and Brett has opened up, that Brett is really only seeing the rear bumper lights of that BMW whenever they get onto a straightaway, and a long straightaway, which there is not really that many of here. Brett has just gradually fallen off the back of scored Buffalo. I think that Chevy has already used up the maximum ability of those tires. Now the balance is going back in the favor of the leading BMW. Right now, looking at the fuel, Arsenal has 37% left. But again, I could be wrong, but what I was told in the pre-race by drivers is that the DPIs have to pit twice. Arsenal and Dino have yet to make their final stop.
Yes, we got about
5 minutes and 10 seconds left in this session, in this race, I should say. You can tell I've been doing a lot of F1 broadcasting because I keep saying session instead of race.
yes.
And again, Arsenal already starting to come on to the back of GT category traffic very quickly here. Less than 5 minutes in the session. 4 minutes and 45 left to be exact, but all the battles on track have pretty much solved themselves at this point in the event. I look on the map, and there is a bit of a thing going on here for 7th, 8th, and 9th between U5, Ludicrous Speed, and Prius Killer. And that is 7th, 8th, 9th overall. That is 3rd for the GT category. And you can see the DPI second place man, Dino Prime, closing in on this fight right now.
Yes. This is essentially... U5 is doing a really great job keeping it in third. I'm very impressed with how well he's been holding off these guys and holding on to third.
Yeah, U5 had some issues early on, did not have a great start, and was overtaken by some people early on, but he has recovered. It looks like he's going to round out this race on the podium in his category. Ludacris is not letting him go away with that fight, though. Ford is trying to make a last-minute run on Chevrolet, and then you have Dodge right there, so it's that classic American three-way battle of the ages, but right now, Chevy is on top, Ford second, and then Dodge third among the three of them, which is pretty much, in my opinion, as it normally ends up being, historically.
Yeah, but then you see out front, it is
Ford DP. Yeah, it is a BMW. Yeah, it is a BMW leading in the, the overall GT category. And then the only other category where you actually have a proper fight going down between manufacturers, that's the DPI category. You just have Ford versus Chevy. Ford outright walking away with it today. Although the Chevy has been stronger navigating lap traffic, it's not been enough to overcome a roughly 1.1 second a lap gap in pace between Arsenal and Dino Prime today.
Yeah, pretty much. You've got Arsenal is in essentially a league of its own at this point.
2.5 minutes left in the session right now. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the DPI category is not forced to pit twice today. Maybe they only have to pit once. Yeah, it's possible I could have heard the wrong information. I was told that everyone was mandated at least one stops and the DPIs had to do twice. I've only seen Arsenal do once thus far. Again, I could be wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, but I could be wrong. It would be very interesting, though, if we see Arsenal walk off with this race and then lose it to second place, which would likely be Sunshine on technicality. Arsenal's pull it off. Oh, is that it? I guess the clock I had I must have accidentally added time to, because my clock still says we have 1.5 minutes left, but Arsenal has pulled over to a stop. So Arsenal wins in his category, and now the fight is for third because Dino is still 17 seconds out from Mr. Sunshine. They may have started at the, I think it's, either I accidentally added a minute to the clock, or they started the clock the moment that everyone loaded onto the circuit. If they did the latter, then yes, this race is going to be a bit shorter. But again, maybe I'm wrong, because this means Dino Prime easily finishes in the second position, but your DPI cars only made one stop. LMP2s made one stop as well. We could see, on technicality, Mr. Sunshine still win this, simply because he only had to make one stop by the rule of the law.
But we got kind of a battle for the GT. Brett somehow caught up.
This will be this should be the last battle, the last fight for position. Brett has closed in on Buffalo. I don't think they're racing. I think they've already finished. They've finished. They've already crossed the line. Yeah, they've already crossed the line. So, yep, and yep, that's the timer officially. So I think they probably just started this race when they all loaded in. So I do apologize for that hiccup. when it comes to following the timing of today's race. Again, may potentially controversy as your DPI leaders, RZM Arsenal and Dino Prime 77, might get disqualified and give the overall race win to the LMP2 field unless rules were changed late. Because I did not see those DPI cars pit twice today.
Yeah, I think they were able to make one stop pretty much. They could make one stop on this.
Yeah. But there we are, the entire field now lined up by position, with the exception of, I believe, Matter, who has not yet caught the rear of the grid. But other than that, everyone is lined up in position. So again, as we run from the top to the bottom, your overall winner is RZM Arsenal. Second is Dino Prime 77. Third, Mr. Sunshine, who is first in the LMP2 category. Fourth is Larry B. the G, who is second in the LMP2 category. Fifth is Scored Buffalo, who is going to be your winner in the GT category. Second will be RZM Brett in the GTs. Third will be U5. Fourth in the GTs will be Prius after he got by Ludacris late. Ninth will be right behind him will be Ludacris, then Shredder, and then you can round it out with Matter. And that will be the end of today's race.
Yep. But apparently I did not know that this wasn't going to be a long race for them. I mean, for everybody who's watching, I might join OEC here to see what... Oh, now they're going into the pits.
And with that in mind, yeah, that's basically a penalty. So that means that Mr. Sunshine wins your race in the LMP2 category on penalty countback. And a big penalty countback it is.
Yeah, that's... I'm guessing they might make a change here. They might about making two stops. Maybe if it was an hour and a half race for most of the month, that would make sense. But since these are freezing races, I could see it being a one-stop thing for those.
Yeah, that's what we saw. Yeah.
That make a change in the next one, but at least in the longer one, I definitely see two.
One other thing to consider, though, is that because this is such a curvy track, the DPIs just weren't in the throttle a whole lot, though, compared to what you'll see at, like, Daytona when we go there in about 2 weeks' time. So that also means that the DPIs, although, yes, they're guzzling a lot more fuel than anything else, they still aren't burning through fuel the entire time they're running around the circuit. It's kind of like the difference between, trying to save fuel at a track like Martinsville or a track like Zandvoort with lots of braking zones compared to a track like Daytona or a track like Monza where you have basically no braking zones whatsoever.
Yes. Yes, but everybody who is watching my stream, I am heading over because apparently I do have some time to go and join the OEC.
Alright, well in that case, Dramora, I will go ahead and I will bid you farewell. Stay tuned here on my side, Insane Layer 13's Twitch broadcast, as we're going to try and talk with the winners of each category at this race in. But again, to Damage Incorporated, I do want to bid you adieu, and thank you very much for covering this race with me today.
No problem, dude.
Alright, so now we are going to try and see what we can do regarding getting the category winners into the party here. Again, right now, everyone is still circling on the circuit right now. But I think they're just trying to run to the end of this race so they can get properly scored and everything for the event itself. Also, this almost looks like a glorified test session at this point. But yeah, we are going to go ahead and try and get word with our category winners in all three divisions here. Don't know how many of them will actually pick up the party invite, if any of them. Might be a case that no one is actually willing to do any interviews simply because they just want to finish up this race. Again, it is still 13 laps left on the ticker, but we are all done with this race in this preseason event. I'm guessing the entire field is using this more as a practice session now to get a little bit more to grips with their cars. Alright, well, in that case, I guess that will be the end of the broadcast then. Alright, well, I do want to say to everyone, thank you for watching the race with us today, as your overall winner is going to be this man here, Mr. Sunshine. But controversially, it will be on penalty countback. Maybe we're not done. Is it possible that this race is not over yet? Again, I was told 45 minutes. Let me check. Just in case, maybe this race is still underway. Yeah, no, this race is most definitely over. I'm looking at the rules right now. So yeah, with that in mind, this is basically like a post-race gimme. Interesting thing here is that Arsenal and Dino, as they had to pit at the end of this race, they're now in 3rd and 4th, and I think Arsenal is trying to see what it would take for him to run down your current leader, Mr. Sunshine, before this event is over. Right now, the gap between 1st and 3rd is about 18.6 seconds. And the DPi is faster by about a second a lap, but is he fast enough to catch and overtake your LMP2 leader and overall race winner? So right now, folks, we're just watching an extra little fight going on to the end of this race, because for the most part, this event is over. $17.6 now between Sunshine and Arsenal. Of course, Arsenal will have to get around the LMP2 of Larry B. the G first. Interesting of note, on the post-race restart, Ludicrous Speed in the 4GT did get ahead of RZM Brett, and he is holding this position, though he's not really closing on Buffalo by any significant amount. Then you also have this fight here between Shredder and Prius Killer. Shredder holds on to 8th, Prius is there in 9th. Again, both of those cars very powered focused. Prius, though, a little bit stronger in a straight line, though, than the BMW would be. Arsenal now 19 seconds behind Sunshine, so he is not closing on the LMP2s at all. Honestly, it seems like the DPIs and the LMP2s are very, very closely matched. Yeah, right now at this rate, Arsenal would have to close by about 2 seconds a lap on your leading LMP2, and that simply is just not going to happen. So this pretty much has it. So again, race is over. The race ended after 45 minutes past the initial load in onto the track. 45 minutes plus the end of that lap that everyone was on. This right now is just the drivers using these extra laps as kind of a countdown clock and a extended glorified practice session and come a little bit more to grips with their cars and what they could actually do. Yeah, this does seem to be it. Again, Arsenal just not closing with any amount on the LMP2, so it does seem like that even if the DPIs did not get penalized for not making their second pit stop, the LMP2s would have still probably won simply because the pace is close enough that the DPIs could not have overcome the gap. We're going to go ahead and ride on board with SRD Shredder for a lap as you see his onboard telemetry, and we'll do the same with the other two categories afterwards. But for a lap, on board with Shredder here now. Well, that'll be controversial. Anyways, going to go ahead and swap it out now and ride on board for a lap with RZM Arsenal, who won in his DPI category today. Full lap on board with Arsenal here in the Ford DPI, top car of the class. Alright, so now we'll go ahead and find our winning LMP2, and we'll go ahead and spin the lap on board with him. It will take a little bit, though, because he is a bit back down the grid. Well, not necessarily down the grid, but a bit farther back on the circuit. They run out of fuel. No, he didn't run out of fuel. Okay, that was weird. Is that it? So are we done now? Okay. So now we're done. Trying to invite our category winners into the party for an interview. All right, here we are. Coming into the party now is your DPI category winner, RZM Arsenal. Arsenal, go ahead, include your audio. Just to make sure I didn't get anything wrong here, this race was supposed to be 45 minutes, right?
It was supposed to be an hour, I believe.
Okay. Well, crap. All right. I had been told 45 minutes, so I thought that first time everyone started slowing down, that was the end of the race. So I do want to apologize for the annoying invites then, which would have been midway. As if this race was an hour, then yeah. By the way, Arsenal, fastest man throughout the day without a doubt. But in the end, the 2 pit stops compared to the one of the LMP2s means that you missed out on the overall race win. What do you have to say about your run today, though?
Yeah, I was really happy with my pace overall compared to the other DPIs. And yeah, those two, us having to do 2 stops over them having to do 1, was kind of the main issue here. I was going to stop early, but I was just planning on leaving it out more, and it's kind of what cost me the win overall.
Alright, well, you made a decent way. You seem to be decent enough coming back up to the field after that late race restart then. Sadly, only a third for you in the end, despite the fact that you were closing by nearly 2 seconds a lap by the very end there. But irregardless, great job. So after this win for your category, as we look forward to the season itself coming up in about 3 weeks' time, do you think you can, start walking off with a championship based off of just your performances here today, or do you think there's still a lot more on the table that you're not aware of?
Considering there's only 2 of us, it's hard to tell, so we'll just have to see how quick the other competition is when they turn up in 3 weeks, but at the moment, I'd say I have a good chance for it.
Alright, well, I do want to say, RZM, thank you very much for jumping in and talking with us. Great job on the run today. Shame you weren't able to win overall, but heck, LMP2s being DPIs is a rarity. We'll take it when we get it. We're sure we'll see you on the normal top step of the podium starting next week or in the next preseason race.
I do hope so, yeah.
Alright, well, winner in the GT category is scored Buffalo. Buffalo, go ahead, make sure your audio is included. Very interesting race for you. Didn't have a great qualifying, didn't have a great start either. Had to make up a bunch of positions on track, but you put on a heck of a fight with RZM in that Chevrolet that he was in, and in the end, you did get him in with an expert overtake around the outside, coming out of the drag strip to walk off with that win. But that's enough from what I saw. Walk us through the race from your perspective. What highlights did you see today?
Personally, it was just after the start, I had a little bit of contact with, I think it was the Viper, and it really set me down on the order. And I also, like during qualifying, I switched controllers because I was dealing with a steering issue, and so I had to get used to that too. And my pace generally at the start wasn't that great, so I was fighting with MVP and the Viper. I forget his name. I'm sorry, but throughout that, I was actually having like a really fun time battling them. And then as soon as as the race went on, I started to get more accustomed to my controller. So as that was going on, I was kind of catching Brett a little bit by bit, and then he started making mistakes when I started to really like be on his bumper. And due to Sonoma, there's not really a lot of passing places here. So once he went to defend on the drag strip, that was just a prime opportunity. And I tried to outbrake him. I actually locked up, but he braked too early too. So then after that, I just ran away. And then I thought he was going to like come back for the caution too, but he started to butt up with Ludacris, and then I just walked away.
Yeah, in the end, ended up walking off with that win. Fantastic run, though, without doubt. So now the question becomes, normal season, the actual points-paying season is coming up shortly. How well do you think you can do in the regular season? Do you think you can mount a championship charge, or do you think that what happened today was a one-off?
I think I'd be able to challenge for the championship. I know if Brett could improve his pace a little bit more, or if I'm at a disadvantage at a track where it suits the Corvette better, I think I see Brett, out of anyone today, being able to go for me for wins. And then there's also Ludacris as well, because we were the top 3 during that end, and they kept up pretty well. But in the season, I think I have a pretty good chance.
All right. Well, now we know where your mouth is. It's time to see in about 2 weeks' time if you can put your money there as well. One more preseason race coming up in about 2 weeks' time. Then there'll be another week break, and then we'll start the racing series up in earnest here for IESC. But until next time, though, I've been your host, InsaneLeader13. I was joined by Damage Incorporated, and I do want to apologize for the viewers. He left because we thought the race was over at the 45-minute mark under that yellow flag. Because we were watching our clocks, and off of the Discord server, it had said 45 minutes, roughly. So we had timed our clocks off of that, and we thought that was the end of the race. So I do apologize for him having to leave, but again, I do want to say shout out and thanks to him, and we won't have that kind of issue again next week. This is what the preseason races are for. Until that time, though, sayonara and goodbye.